Wirth Watching. 56 years and counting.
Hello and welcome to Wirth Watching on News for Utah Plus. I'm Sarah Murphy here with Craig Wirth. I love to see the little photos scroll of you on the screen. It's so fun.
So do I. I had hair then.
No, what a little throwback. It's so nice. Okay, 56 years and counting. We're going to go along on some of your most memorable moments, a little bit of fun, a little bit of information, and you've got a lot of good stuff planned for us today.
Well, we have some nostalgia. We have Bill and Nada's. A lot of people said Nada, but it was really Nada. And it was the ultimate diner, open 24 hours a day.
Ooh.
And about trolleys. You know, there's just something about trolleys, in Salt Lake City had an amazing trolley system, and we're finding it as they dig up roads in construction and they come across trolley track and they wonder, one of the things that we're going underground to find trolley tracks, but we're going to show some buildings being blown up.
Oh, it's always good
That's
video.
always
we
great.
Love
You've
that.
got to blow up a building, and that's a
true.
great spectator sport. And speaking of just kind of community stuff, let's look at the flood of '83. It's when the city really came together.
Okay, so a long list of stuff, but we want to start with the diner, shall we?
Absolutely. If it was 2 in the morning and you were looking for a place to go, that was it. Down by Trolley Square, Bill and Nada's, and it would be packed. And as long as you said please and thank you, that was the only requirement they had. Well, a little bit of money, too, for your eggs that you got.
Okay, let's take a look back.
Everything else seems to have changed. Bill and Nada's has not. It's midnight, February 1988. It could be midnight in 1952. The eggs are still cooked the same way. The hash browns are still home cut. And the booths are still filled with the after midnight crowd. Above the pie case, you still find the word please. And above that, you find Nada and Bill.
I need a sausage and a BLT on and with, biscuits and gravy.
Bill is also still here, just after midnight most every night, as are Mabel and Brubaker, the cooks.
Bill's almost like my dad. When I started out, I wasn't nothing. I have a lot of respect for the man.
Yes, everything else seems to have changed. Bill and Nada's did not. Bill says he wouldn't know how to run a modern, pre-packaged, pre-measured fast food franchise.
Well, I know what I know, and I stick with what I do know. And
That's why it's ruled the midnight hours on this corner since World War II.
we've kept it the same way. I don't know as we could change it anyway. And
The customers say this isn't true. There have been big changes.
Well, he's moved the pinball machine on us. It used to sit right there, and he moved it down there.
It's about the biggest change, huh?
Well, he got that slot in the counter right there one night.
Yes, it's the kind of place that you can push L8 on the jukebox and get the Tennessee Waltz.
I've tried to get this older music on here for years and years, and I finally got some of these they call the oldies.
The walls are repainted often, except for the murals. The most famous is Bill on Nada's horse. Nada passed away years ago. Bill says she created it. He just worked. She also created the house special.
It's the only place I know of that serves brains and eggs 24 hours a day.
I had never tried brains and eggs. I'm like the bartender. I sell it, but I haven't eaten them.
It's not the biggest seller. Eggs are 30 dozen each Friday night. Eggs, Bill, Mabel, Brubaker. And when Bill is gone, he will let them all keep it going, for it's a family.
So, you know, like these people that's worked for you all these years, you can't just say, whoa.
It's the old way places used to be. So it's now 3 in the morning at Bill and Nada's. For the past 40 years, that means it's time for some eggs and hash browns.
Aww.
Unfortunately, it's gone. It's been gone for decades now. But Bill and Nada's does live on, well, right here.
Right here.
Right here.
In the video, did you try the brains and eggs ever?
No. Now, as a vegetarian, there are some places I'm just not even going to go.
So that one was not done, but that lives on too, the memory of it. Greg, thanks so much. That was a fun one. Hey, still to come here, a lot of good stuff. Trolley tracks unearthed in downtown Salt Lake City. We are combing through the history it holds as part of Utah's transportation past. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are continuing to look back at the 56 years and counting of the incredible stories you've covered. And we can't miss one of the big stories, Utah's world-class trolley system, can we?
No, you know, Utah actually had one, when we use that word world-class a little too much, but this one, it was, every 7 blocks was a trolley, and they went all around, all the way out to 27th South, and just crisscrossed everything downtown, and then it's now all gone. But we're finding it. As you know, there's a little bit of construction, just a little bit.
Maybe here and there.
Yeah, here and there, there's some. And they dig down and thung, we had another trolley track, and they are pulling them up. It's one of the amazing things. If you dig history, you're going to digging for history, and that's what they're doing on this.
Okay, let's find out.
You might have noticed a bit of road construction in Salt Lake City, like everywhere. My goodness, they're digging and digging. Most of the time, workers are only finding old gravel and rusted stuff. It's kind of creepy to see things that have been underground for a century or so. But every once in a while, they find something really cool, such as old trolley tracks. Now, who knows what they're going to find this year? The biggest historic haul was along 9th South a couple of years ago. And last year, they found more trolley tracks along State Street. You see, trolley cars ran all the way out to Holiday from downtown. There are more tracks out there somewhere. The last trolley tracks were used in 1927, and there were dozens of trolley lines. They started in what we know as Trolley Square, and rumbled and clanged and shook, and people loved them.
Well, first off, you're going faster than anything else you can go on at the time, except a train. And so for people, this was a quick, fast way to get someplace, faster than walking, faster than horse, and they didn't have cars. And so it was great for them. They could go where they wanted as fast as they could.
Of course, taking a look at 9th South and 13th East, you get an idea, even if you had a car, maybe it wasn't swell to drive around some days. I suppose most folks don't know, but Salt Lake City had a world-class system with hundreds of miles of track crisscrossing the city. In one year, 1913, the system had 38 million rides. Just look at the mess downtown when the trolley drivers went on strike in 1907. Actually, there were even competing companies that ran next to each other. As I said, trolleys were big deals. They only seemed to cooperate when they had to lay down the track, which they did several times. Trolley cars were very hard on the rails. Now, when you rode a trolley, you got all gussied up. That went back to the days of the mule-pulled cars in 1872. After all, it was a trip into the city.
Streetcars enabled people to live farther away from downtown and still be able to work there, so it was essential to the economy.
So what happened? What caused folks to bury the tracks, and when did it happen?
These tracks have been hidden since at least 1927. 1927 is the last year that they only had trolley cars here. After that, they started using motor coaches, which were buses that used the overhead lines. And then they introduced in the 1940s the gas buses, and eventually trolley cars went away.
They kept a few lines going for a while, but we were now in the era of cars. In fact, in 1941, it was to be the last trolley, May 31st of 41 to be exact. It was decorated with a wreath, and it would run the downtown run. But with the war and shortages, the last trolley and its wreath was premature, and a few still ran in the city until a storm flooded Salt Lake City in 45, and it was all over. And that's the story of all the timbers and twisted rails that we recently saw on 9th South. Quite a story.
A story? Wow, you said it.
Well, it's nostalgic, and you know, people love to go out on the trolley car because you would meet your neighbors, and you met people all day long because
it was a social
you
thing.
were out there, yes,
I
and
like
they
that.
could talk to people. It's one of the big changes today. We don't talk to anybody except if it's on a cell phone.
And we don't get gussied up to go sit in our car, do we?
No, we don't.
A little different. A little different. That was a great one, Craig.
You know,
Thank
one
you.
of the most fun things in Salt Lake City, and it's a great spectator thing. If you want to get a lot of people together, blow something up.
You said it.
It's just
That'll
amazing.
do it.
And that's what we're going to do when we come back.
Stay with us. Okay, welcome back, everybody. One thing we've found that will always make the news, and you can probably speak to this more than I can, but people love to see good video of explosions, don't they?
Yeah.
It's so appealing.
It just is amazing. They count it down, and they know this building is going to come down, and they just all cheer.
And it's so
exciting.
visual.
And then it's probably not the healthiest thing you ever want to see, to be covered by old dust from old buildings.
Maybe
but
not.
What the heck? It's fun.
It is fun, and we want to look at that more, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, these are the kind of historical events that we apparently like around here, when things go boom on purpose. This was the Key Bank building of the old Crossroads Mall.
Okay, that was pretty good. Oh, but not as good as when they blow stuff up and you could sit out in your lawn chair and watch it.
Oh, we noted some folks just doing that in Murray in August of 2000. See, they were about to blow up the iconic Murray Stacks. And lots of folks lined the streets in their comfy chairs to watch. After all, to blow up 2 stacks and 8 million pounds of brick, that's pretty good by blowing up standards. Now the problem might have been the big stack was used to take arsenic and other bad stuff 450 feet into the air and out of Murray's way. The little one only took arsenic 250 feet into the air, and that made just a nice dusting on the farms. But the brick had lots of that arsenic still in it. The mayor thought it might not be a good idea to sit out here when it goes boom.
We're asking the residents to enjoy your day on Sunday, stay home.
Yes, they didn't stay home. Besides, the EPA person said it was all under control.
I've got a team in Denver at EPA that I work with.
Well, the fact they came from Denver, that was good enough for the thousands, no worries. I mean, they were a team, and they're from Denver. And they had a trench and sprinklers, and the sprinklers worked just like they do in Denver. Well, it was showtime. And my goodness, the stacks came down. And it was a pretty good sight to see, although I guess Utah sprinklers and trenches don't work quite like they do in Denver. And the crowd, we guess they might have been a bit covered in stuff, but they were there.
But in the history of building go boom, there has never been anything nearly as big as what happened here. It's when the Hotel Newhouse was imploded.
See, the new house had been a symbol of elegance in 1915. There were 12 floors of rooms and a really great stairway that went to French ballrooms that held lavish parties. But by 1983, room service wasn't quite as good. A wrecking crew tore out the beautiful dining room and for dessert, cut support beams. Then the crowds arrived. Some brought their living rooms over to Main Street. Blowing up stuff is a spectator sport. 3, 2, 1, fire. The charges went off one at a time. Those in the street saw a different angle. And we broadcast a side view of the last party at the new house. The old parties were good. This one was a blast. And then all the people went to the rubble. It was like storming the field after a football game. Oh, and the smoke? Hey, what's a little grit in your hair and in your lungs?
Wow. It's to this day such good, every single angle, incredible video, Craig.
You got to have many angles.
You can't miss it.
And if you're sitting there, you don't see a thing because you're just covered in really not some good stuff.
No, don't breathe.
I'll tell you, now that was a trip to Main Street. Another trip to Main Street was in 1983, and that's when they created, well, they took the sandbags, over 1 million sandbags, put them downtown, made the State Street River, and saved the city. It's really an amazing event.
And that's what's coming up?
You got it.
All right, we'll have that when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You know, there's been a lot of amazing stuff over this half century of covering things. One of the amazing things, I'm still here, but anyway, but one of the biggest stories that I ever saw was the mighty State Street River of 1983.
I know I've loved to see this one of yours. Such incredible video. And I know I'm not alone. Okay, I have written down here, it's one of your most requested videos. Is that right?
In fact, if you go to YouTube and not be watching us live, which you should be, but if you go to YouTube, I saw it's like 17,000 have looked at just one of the stories. We've tried to do a little annual story every once in a while. But it's not just because there was a flood. It's because the whole town came together. And in 24 hours, they saved the city. And that alone was just an event that I will never, ever forget. The State Street River. And people just came down once that the water was flowing through. And it was like it was a river walk in downtown Salt Lake. But it had to go. Oh, the State Street River was famous. In Philadelphia, in Kansas, and all over America, including Indiana, too. What river on State Street, you ask? Well, this is State Street as we saw it over the last week. Note the piles of snow. You ought to see the piles of snow in the mountains. The fear is that we could have a repeat of how this State Street corner looked in 1983. Yeah, when there was a river of melted snow roaring down the street. People talk about the flood of 1983 pretty much every spring when the snow melts. You see, we had record amounts of snow in the winter of 82-83, dry 700 inches at Parley's Summit versus a norm of about 300 inches, and a really cold May. That is until the last week of May when it hit 90 degrees. At first, they thought they could hold it all at Mountain Dell in Parley's Canyon. It didn't work. The water came. Manholes became geysers. Water came down 13th South out of Parley's Canyon. It gushed through Memory Grove, tearing out a new channel. Things didn't look too good. People had about a day to save the town. And it all amounted to an equivalent of an old barn raising. Thousands turned out to sandbag the city. For the first time, even churches were canceled on May 29th. It was no picnic on the holiday weekend. 1 million sandbags, yes, 1 million sandbags were stuffed with sand. Plastic riverbeds made a new roaring river. There was a human chain. Sandbags went from the big sand pile down the street and into the river. Well, by about the second day, we knew this was a big deal. Why? Because they were already selling T-shirts. I am a Salt Lake City sandbagger and the spirit of 83. And of course, the souvenir of the decade. Water from the flood. Oh, it had a warning, do not drink. Now, what's wrong with drinking opaque, dirty flood water from City Creek that was turning the city into a creek? The masses and sandbags had moved on to State Street. People worked day and night and made a new river, the State Street River. The new river would run from Memory Grove all the way to about Dirks Field. It was quite a river. It even had rapids. People had a sense of humor about it all. One claimed to have caught a fish in it. Well, there is the guy and the fish. We don't know if fishing without a license on State Street is as bad as driving without a license on State Street. But it wasn't just a river. In one day, bridges were built over the mighty State Street River. Some for cars, some for people. And like any good river, it became a destination tourist site. It just seemed very strange. A river roaring down the street. Kind of a combination downtown river walk and Venetian-style canal. And life went on around it and over it. About the worst thing about the State Street River was this. The sandbags blocked the old Center Theater. Well, that meant Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, had to go to a theater on dry ground. Well, that was big news then. The city spent about $150,000 a day to keep the river flowing, and it did. And then it was time to take it all apart and drain the mighty State Street River. 13 days later, all was done, and the city picked up its million soggy sandbags and tore out the $30,000 bridges that were put up in just one day. The city hosed down the street, and all of this became a memory to talk about every spring.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
No. I can't help but notice all the kids who are out there helping too, all ages.
All ages, and just, it was an amazing sight to see, and it did your heart good to see that people had that pride to save the city. And really, just, the sandbags are not light.
Oh, no, I believe it.
Yeah.
Craig, let me ask you this. We mentioned that this is one of your most requested video memories. Over 17,000 people have watched these types of flood stories on the YouTube. Well, why do you think that is? Why do you think this one resonates with so many people?
Because anyone who was here then, now that's been some time, it's been 42 years, but anyone who was here was part of that.
Wow.
And I would say it would be like if we had an NBA championship or something like that, then people would say, I was there. And the State Street River is, I was there. It was that type of event. You mark time based on what it was like, and you know, it won't happen again because that's what caused the city to put in all new storm drains. That's what tore up the streets and still tearing them up to ever not have that happen again. So we probably won't. Of course, I'll say that, and
I know.
in a week
Fingers
tomorrow,
crossed.
we'll be saying, what about that new State Street River? But it probably won't happen again. So that's why I think people just love the story. They love to think about the past, and they love their part. And that's part of it. They were part of a group that saved the city.
Yeah, a glimpse of them coming together. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Not just that one, but all the stories we were able to go through. Craig Wirth, 56 years and counting. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.